If you have blue eyes, green eyes, or hazel eyes, stop eating bananas. I know what you're about to ask me. You're about to say, but where do I get my potassium? And the fact that you just thought that question before anything else is proof that 100-year-old marketing campaign is still living rent-free in your head. Let me share with you how they did it. Let me share with you why. And that bananas could be doing you more harm than good. And that is not just my blue-eyed, green-eyed, hazel eyes watcher. It's for everyone. But I'm going to focus on those eye colours for the time being. So in iridology, we recognise three main constitutional types based on colour. Blue eyes and the green and hazel variations that come from a blue base are what we call a lymphatic constitution. And here's what that means in real English. Your lymphatic system, that's your body's drainage network, your waste removal, your immune highway, it runs sluggish. It's prone to congestion. And your mucous membranes, the lining of your sinuses, your throat, your lungs, your digestive tract, those membranes are sensitive and reactive. So to translate, you are the person who gets phlegmy after dairy. You get congested when the seasons change. You wake up with that thick feeling in your throat, and your sinuses are the first things to go when you are run down. This isn't a flaw. It is your constitutional type. It is how you are built. But it means you have to be really smart about what you put into your body, because your body already makes more mucus than it could. The last thing you need is to add fuel to that fire. So, what are the classic mucus-forming foods? You probably already know the big ones. Dairy, especially pasteurized cow's milk, ice cream, sour cream, cheese. They are absolute mucus bombs. Wheat and gluten-heavy grains, which are gluey and congesting. Sugar, processed foods, anything refined. Yes, they create mucus. But here's the one that surprises people. Bananas. Why? Well, a few reasons. First, sugar. A medium banana has about 14 grams of sugar. That's just under 3 teaspoons. And sugar is inflammatory. Inflammation drives mucus production. That is pouring fuel on the fire that's already lit. Second, bananas have a thick, starchy, almost gluey consistency when they hit the digestive tract. For someone with a sluggish lymphatic system, that's exactly the wrong texture. It sits, it congests, and it slows things down. Third, and this is the one hardly anyone talks about, bananas are a tropical fruit, which are bred nowadays for shelf life and sweetness. The Cavendish banana that you now buy in the local grocery store today is not the banana your great-grandparents might have encountered. It's been selected, engineered, and optimized for one thing: getting you to buy more bananas. Definitely not for your lymphatic health. And this is the moment in every consultation where my blue-eyed client looks at me and says, okay, but where am I supposed to get my potassium? And I love that question. Not because it's a good question, because it reveals how deeply the deep programming goes. They didn't ask me about magnesium. They didn't ask me about zinc. Immediately jump in about potassium. And everyone immediately links potassium with one specific fruit. Why? Because you were taught to. Because someone spent millions of dollars to make sure you'd make that exact connection. Let me tell you how this happened, because the history is wilder than most people realize. Let's go back to the late 1800s. Two American businessmen, Andrew Preston and Minor Cooper Keith, they formed something called the Boston Fruit Company. Eventually, it becomes the United Fruit Company. Then it becomes Chiquita. At the time, bananas were an exotic novelty. Most Americans had never seen one. They're wrapped in foil and sold for a dime at the 1876 World's Fair in Philadelphia. That's how rare they were. But these guys have a vision. They want to make bananas more popular than apples. Now, how do you make a tropical fruit that nobody's ever eaten into an American dietary staple? You don't just run ads. You go far deeper than that. United Fruit Company distributed textbooks to children across America, instructional materials, part of the school curriculum. They literally taught a generation of kids that bananas were an essential health food. They planted the potassium myth right into education system while those kids were still learning to read. Now, that's not just marketing. That is indoctrination. And it worked. By the early 20th century, they built an empire. They cleared land in Jamaica. They ran their own steamships. They toppled governments in Central America. That's literally where the term banana republic comes from. The CIA backed coups to protect United Fruit's land interests, all so that you'd keep buying cheap bananas. Fast forward to the year 2000. The banana industry gets another gift. Tropicana, owned by PepsiCo, submits a health claim to the FDA about potassium and blood pressure. The FDA doesn't object. The claim becomes available to any food with 10% or more of the daily value for potassium. The banana industry immediately spins this as the FDA has approved the health claim is specifically for bananas. That was an out-and-out lie. The claim applied to dozens of foods. Bananas weren't special, but the banana industry ran with it, and the media repeated it. And now everyone, from your doctor to your grandmother, thinks bananas are the potassium food. It was a corporate PR campaign, hijacking a generic FDA allowance, and it's been repeated so many times that nobody questions it. So let's talk actual numbers, because the truth is so embarrassing for the banana industry. A medium banana gives you about 422 milligrams of potassium. That's roughly 9% of your daily needs. Nothing special. Now, look at what else gives you potassium per 100 grams. Wild Atlantic salmon, 418 milligrams, almost identical. Plus, you get omega-3, complete protein, 0 sugar. Pork loin, 361 milligrams, approximately the same. Beef liver, 356 milligrams, plus every other vitamin and mineral you need. Liver is literally nature's multivitamin. Halibut, 490 milligrams. That's more than a banana. Skipjack tuna, 407 milligrams, similar. Beef, 410 milligrams. Even an avocado has 507 milligrams. And here is what really, really made me angry, and it perhaps should do you too. Fatty cuts of meats are higher in potassium than lean meats. We've been told for decades that fatty meat is so bad for us. Now, potassium is stored alongside fat cells in animals. That ribeye you've been told to feel guilty about has better potassium numbers than the dry chicken breast everyone calls healthy. So the question isn't where I get potassium without bananas. The question is, why was I ever told bananas were the only source? Now here is where I want you to think for yourself. Most of our ancestors, and I'm talking about the vast majority of human beings that ever lived, never ever saw a banana. They weren't growing in Ireland, Scandinavia, or Russia, or most of North America, or the Middle East, or Northern Asia. Bananas are a tropical fruit. They grow near the equator. For almost all of human history, they were geographically unavailable to most of the world's population. So, ask yourself, were all those people potassium deficient? Were the Vikings collapsing from muscle cramps? Were the Mongols having heart palpitations? Were the Plains Indians suffering from electrolyte imbalance? Of course not. They got their potassium from the animals they hunted, from the fish they caught, from the foods that were actually available in their environment. The idea that you need a tropical fruit to get a mineral, a fruit that doesn't grow where you live, that your ancestors never touched or tasted, that was popularized by a corporation that overthrows governments. It's totally absurd when you really look at it. And the only reason it feels true is because you were taught it from when you were about 6 years old by a textbook paid for by the banana industry. So, if you're one of those lymphatic types, blue eyes, green eyes, hazels, here's what I feel you should do. Cut the bananas, cut the dairy, minimize wheat and sugar. For potassium, your best animal-based sources are wild-caught salmon, especially sockeye, high potassium, high omega-3s, anti-inflammatory. Beef liver, saw twice a week, small portions. It's the most nutrient-dense food on the planet. pork loin and fatty pork cuts, ribeye and chuck roast. The fattier, the better for potassium. Halibut, cod, tuna, seafood in general outperforms farm bananas on potassium per gram. And if you are not carnivore, then some plant foods like avocados and jacket baked potatoes are excellent sources of potassium. So are properly prepared leafy greens. But here's the bigger point. If you're eating a diet rich in animal foods, real meat, organs, fish, eggs, you are almost certainly getting enough potassium without ever touching a banana. You've been sold a problem you simply do not have, and then sold the solution by the same people who created the problem. Your irises tell me what your body needs. Blue eyes means a lymphatic constitution. Lymphatic constitution need clean fuel, not sugar, not mucus-forming starches, not tropical fruits bred for a shelf life by corporations that don't care about you and your sinuses. The banana-potassium connection is a marketing artifact. It's not nutritional science. It's not science. It's a 100-year-old sales pitch that you've been hearing since kindergarten. You do not need bananas for potassium. You never did. Our ancestors knew that. Now you do too. If this hits home for you, share this with someone who's still choking down bananas because they think they have to. And also, I would also like to say to those of you who are on a carnivore diet, do you really need those electrolytes? Just posing that question. Bye for now.